Doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible. If you risk nothing, then you're risking everything. The bad news is time flies. The good news is you're the pilot. Welcome to the shop, Rockstars. I'm Daniel with Bearded Viking Woodworks. It's almost Valentine's Day, and I don't want y'all to get caught with your pants down and not have something ready for your significant other. So, I've decided to make 3 different videos on some perfect Valentine's Day gifts that will be sure to spark that fire your relationship is missing. And if you don't have a significant other, hey, you can make some profit or give a gift to your sister, your daughter, or your mother, or grandmother, or great-great-grandmother. Who knows? This is episode 25 of Stuck on Sawdust. Now meet me at the table saw. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have purchased your Valentine jewelry or something smaller of significant value. Well, don't be like the others and just keep it in that simple case. Build yourself a gift box, and I'm going to show you how to do that with our first project. And our joinery for this project is going to be original and badass. So let's get to it. This project is perfect for scrap wood. So go ahead and dig through your scrap wood pile and let's get to work. I've got some fiddleback maple and some figured Jahara, which is absolutely stunning. Now this box isn't very big, but it's an eye popper. So let's figure out our dimensions. All right, so our Jahara is 2 3/4 wide by 1 3/4 inches thick, and our maple is 5 inches wide by 5 inches long. So we'll rip our maple directly in half, and that will leave us with about 2 3/8, and then we'll rip our Jahara the same dimension as our maple. Our maple is a 1/2 inch wide, so what I'm going to do now is go ahead and resaw this Jahara into 2 pieces at a 1/2 inch. Now we'll set our table saw at 2 3/8 and rip the maple and rip our pieces of Jahara at 2 3/8. So now that our stock is ripped down, I'm going to go ahead and cut all of our stock and make sure it's 5 inches. So I'll just set up a stop block to make consecutive cuts. So now that all of our pieces are cut, we're going to go ahead with the joinery. So I'm going to do a 1/2 flap joint. So we're going to be pulling in from each side of each piece 3/8 of an inch, okay? And from that mark that we made at 3/8 of an inch, we're going to take the thickness of the opposing piece and make a tick mark. And what we're going to wind up doing is cutting halfway through this maple, and we're going to follow our marks that we made that will fit our Jahara right into this slot that we make. And we're going to make the opposite cut for our Jahara, and basically they'll lap each other. So on this side you'll see the Jahara stand proud, and on this side over here the maple will sit proud the same amount. This joint is going to make this box pop. So let's get to it. And I'm going to do this with setting up stop blocks. So I'll line up my blade with our first tick mark and set the first stop block on this side of the piece. And we'll lock that down. And then we'll line up our opposite tick mark with this side of the blade. And we'll take our stop block and lock that into place and make this notch. Our pieces are ripped at 2 3/8, so we want to raise our blade to about 1 1/4 inches. And we'll make this cut for all of our maple pieces. And you want to double check your thickness and make sure it's turning out right. So that's snug, but it's perfect. It's not too snug and it's not too loose. So that's what we want. We want a nice, loose, snug fit, if that makes sense. So we'll continue making the notches. Now, I know I'm the only one that can see my imagination, but I like how our joint's working out. However, I think I'm going to take this over to the miter box and just put a slight angle going down our Jahara. Probably take it from the bottom at an 1/8 inch up to nothing out here. So instead of me trying to explain it, let me just show you at the miter box. So here's my bottom right here. So I'm going to keep my piece like this because we want our cut to start right here where it's solid and not up here because you risk breaking this off. So what I'm going to do is turn my saw to about 4 degrees. And we'll go from nothing to an 1/8 inch. Take this cut nice and slow. And you should be left with something like this. Let's check this out at the table saw. So yeah, I'm digging that right there. I think that's going to look great. It gives it sort of an oriental look. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that angle on each of my pieces. Let's head back to the miter box. So we'll now turn our miter to the opposite side at 4 degrees. And now we can keep our maple flipped the same way our Jahara was. And there we have it. I think that looks phenomenal. It's not too crazy of an angle, but it's not too less of an angle. I think it suits it just right. So now let's go ahead and get our bottom cut in. And you could do this a number of ways. I was going to take and route out a dado to carry a bottom. However, I'm just going to cut a piece to fit right in there and glue it in, just in case y'all don't have a router. Alright, so for our box bottom, I'm just going to measure in between the Jahara and the maple on the inside of the box. And I've got 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. So we'll run a piece of walnut I have left over at the miter box and cut it down. Alright, so now that we got that cut, we'll just go ahead and temporarily set it in. Oh yeah, that's nice and snug. We'll just keep that right in there until we're ready to glue everything up. Now, for the lid, I've got an idea. Ever since I put these angles on my pieces on the outside here, I kind of want to keep it with that theme of semi-oriental / contemporary. So what I'm going to do is cut a lid to fit over the outside of the Jahara to the outside, and the same for the maple from the outside to outside. So that measurement is 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. So I've got a piece of leftover maple that I'm going to go cut at the miter box. Alright, so now that we got everything cut and ready, I want to put a sharp angle going back like this here. That way, when I sit it on top of the box, it will dive in. So I've got my jig set up right here at my table saw, and I've got my bevel of my saw set at 17 degrees. And we're going to set our piece of maple up against our jig. It's a simple jig. It's just got 3 sides and it sits right over your fence. And the side that's up against my fence here is taller than the rest of the jig by 3 inches. That way I have some clamping room. So we'll go ahead and we'll clamp our maple to our piece here. And we're going to run it right through this blade, starting our cut a 1/4 inch in from the top of our maple. So here we are. We got a 1/4 inch from here to here. And down there is where our cut will start. And it'll come out the back side here. So we'll have a little lip on the very top of our lid. So I'm going to get this cut and show you what it looks like. Triple check your clamp to make sure it's secure. And watch where I'm standing. I'm out of the pathway of kickback. Do not rush this cut. Okay, so for our lid handle, I got this piece of leftover fiddleback walnut, and I'm going to put a 15-degree angle on one side of it. Now, I'm going to take it over to the table saw and show you how we're going to get this thing shaped up. So what I'm going to do is pull over from the long point of that 15 I put on it, 2.5 inches at the top. Now, I'll just mark out for about where a 15-degree angle would be from that 2.5 inch mark I made. Let's set our blade to 3/16 of an inch. And I'm going to dado out about a 1/4 inch back from each short point. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, and over here at the belt sander, I'm going to take and put an alcove right at the center mark here, just about an 1/8 inch deep. Let me demonstrate. So that's what your piece should look like. Now we'll go over to our miter box and cut the next 15-degree angle, and then we'll have our handle for the lid. So we'll line up with our 2.5 inch mark we made back at the table saw and take this cut nice and slow so I don't break my handle. Now, let's go ahead and get everything sanded down, and we'll slap some finish on this thing and wait until you see this pop when we get that finish on it. It is going to be insane. Alright, so we got everything sanded down. For my bottom, I'm going to add some flocking just because I think that would look a little bit more elegant for when you open the box. And you can either do that with some adhesive backed felt, which I'll leave a link in the description for, or you can use some flocking fibers, and I'm going to show you an alternative to the adhesive for the flocking fibers, because that stuff can get expensive. But I've got the perfect solution that will save you a shit ton of money. Alright, so bring your box bottom over, and what you want to do is pick up some of this Rust-Oleum spray paint. I like to use flat black a little better, but all they had was the gloss, but no biggie. And you want to make sure to get the same color that your flocking is. In this case, I've got black flocking. So we're going to add 1 coat of the spray paint first. And we'll let that get tacky and then apply a 2nd coat. Alright, so now that that's nice and tacky, we'll add a 2nd coat, but this time we'll spray it on extra heavy. Now just apply your flocking. You want to put your flocking on heavy as well. And don't worry, I'll leave a link to all of this in the description. So we'll let that dry up, knock off the excess, and we're going to save the flocking that's left over on our paper and put it back in our flocking bag. Alright guys, y'all know what time it is. Before we finish up, we're going to add a dab of glue, add a dab of glue. Okay, enough of that shit. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Let's go ahead and glue our lid handle on. Let's find the center of 4 1/4. So we got 2 1/8 and 2 1/8. Another way you can find center is just taking the speed square and just marking lightly right around the center mark, and then do it this way and do the same thing. right around the center mark, and that's where your center is. But first, we gotta add a dab of glue. We don't want a lot of squeeze out that we're gonna have to clean up, so literally a dab of glue. And we're gonna do what we like to call a rub joint. And just rub that thing back and forth ever so slightly. All right, we'll set that aside and let that dry. And while that's drying, let's go ahead and assemble our box. But first, we gotta add a dab of glue. Slide this in place. That is marvelous. All right, so we got a little bit of squeeze out, so we're gonna go ahead and get rid of that real quick. All right, and we'll add a dab of glue to our box bottom and just push that in nice and slow. Now we just let this dry up and put some finish on this bad boy, and I can't wait. Don't go anywhere. I got one more project left to show you. So first, let's go ahead and spray our lid. And I'm just going to use a lacquer spray. All right, we're going to let this dry and slap on a second coat. Oh my God. Rockstars, I want to share this next project that is sure to leave your Valentine blushing from ear to ear. It's these badass heart-shaped candle holders, and they cut out a half of the heart in each one and made one taller than the other. It's really simple to make, and they got these heart stencils that I'll link in the description, and mine are on the way. They haven't arrived yet, but I'm looking forward to it, and will definitely be making a few of these for my mom, my wife, and my daughter. So I'm looking forward to it. And I definitely recommend making this. And I'll leave a link for the candles that I use. And they're 1 3/4 inches in diameter. So you'll need to get an 1 7/8 Forstner bit. But it's definitely worth it. So I know that some of us are low on funds and lumber. So this next project is sort of a little bonus project, just to throw it at you as an idea. Now, I'm sure most of you, if you're a woodworker, have a leftover stock of material that's at least, what, 5-8 inches by at least 3 inches. Small piece of wood. And you can make your significant other one of these. It's just a simple season holder. And I made one the other day. And I had this awesome piece of fiddleback Claro left over. And I got 5 vials for seasonings. And we'll be giving this to the wife as well for Valentine's. And I'm looking forward to her reaction. So, definitely a good project for some scrap wood. And who doesn't need a seasoning rack? Come on. As far as this box, I absolutely love this thing. And it fits my wife's gift perfectly. She's going to be very pleased. Well, that does it for this video, rock stars. I got one more video on some Valentine's Day gifts you should make. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe, but most importantly, share this video so we can get some more looks. This is Bearded Viking Woodworks, and I'm Daniel. Until next time, get in your shop and make some sawdust. Thanks, guys.